All right, hello. This is just going to be a quick, I guess, overlook of some of the passive mana generation for Botania. Um, Bear with me, it's like 1:45 in the morning. I'm kind of tired, and I've been working on some design stuff. This is probably the most simplistic and basic way to start out. I usually like to stack these up. You just get the hydrangeas, with the infinite source of water in a 3x3, just like pretty much everyone knows. I think this is the most common way to do it, but I like to have them stacked up going into a single one of these. It's very efficient on early resources, and it gets the job done. This has been running for a good while I did everything else. This was the first thing that I set up, but it's decent for mana generation. Just having one of these is a bit too slow for me. Having two is much better, but you can have as many as you want. I did try to find a way to automate these to where as soon as this decayed, because they will decay, so because it's a passive generating flora, then it will decay after about an hour of in-game, real-world in-game time. So I tried using a dispenser with that, but I guess it's kind of bugged. It turns it into a generic Botania flower. It doesn't work, doesn't do anything, and it actually turns into the purple and black missing texture icon if it's the regular flower and not one of the floating ones. So that doesn't work. The next thing that I like to do, this is just a very, again, basic setup. You can expand this pretty much as you want, is using the endo flames with the wooden pressure plate, because that will activate whenever an entity falls onto it, a item entity. A little bit of redstone onto a hopper so that the redstone will lock it. Using some coal coke just because it burns for a long time. And the real only downside is that if for whatever reason you manage to get an item to despawn because it was sitting here for too long, then you only lose one. So this does a wonderful job. It puts out mana, I think, faster than the 8 hydrangeas over there. And again, it's not too bad. Early generation, it's pretty good. Now, the next one is going to be Chiti, for a lot of people's point of view. So we're using a good bit of redstone. This isn't some professional design. This is just something that I whipped together that managed to work. I'm far from being a redstone expert. Basically, what we have going on is a mana detector, so that as mana is coming through here and passes through, it will trigger this. So I have this as a pulse extender going into a timer. Once this fully goes down, so once the pulses are finally done, this will slowly die down, which will cut this off, and there's an inverting tower up to the top. Now, up here is a TNT duplicator. So this is something you can build in vanilla. That's just something that I whipped up. It's nothing major. So if I break this, it will duplicate the TNT. The entropinium will then eat it and spit out a ton of mana. So it completely fills the flower with mana, which then, of course, fills the mana spreader with mana. And then you'll see here, this redstone is all active. So this would normally just give a little bit of a pulse. That's why I had to have the pulse extender here. It goes up through the inverting tower all the way up here to the top, which makes sure that this is off. So once this is done, it inverts the signal, cuts this on, puts out another thing of TNT, and the process repeats itself infinitely. This never stops. This is not technically a passive flower, so it will never decay. But because of this, we've made it into a passive flower, and it's very powerful. Some would argue overpowered, and I would be inclined to agree with them. So this is kind of expensive, I think, just because this flower is not exactly early game. So we should see this. Yep, there we go. There's another piece of TNT. It's totally safe. As long as this is completely drained of mana whenever the TNT explodes, it does absolutely no damage. I've blown it up a couple times just doing tests and working it out, so I recommend figuring out your own design or copying this one for your own world. But all right, so quick pause. This is during the edit. So I forgot to mention something. The comparator that goes off from that mana pool, comparators actually check the amount of mana that is within the mana pool that they're connected to. So once the mana pool becomes completely filled is when it will hit the power 15 on redstone. So if you have a line of redstone that is 15 long that then connects to a repeater, you can then run it up the exact same redstone line from there that everything else is connected to make sure that it is constantly turned off. Because once that mana pool becomes completely filled, the mana spreader is going to stay filled, which means mana will remain in that flower, which means that the next time TNT drops, it blows up the whole thing. So that is a failsafe. So that way, once everything is totally full, you're still safe. So it will turn itself off, or I guess keep itself off, whenever it is done doing the job and it's completely filled up. So still completely safe. Just forgot to mention that. Carry on. It's good, but you know, kind of questions or makes you question yourself a little bit. Now over here, so I tried to work with the Nar Slimus. This was a quadruple slime chunk that then didn't spawn slimes. It was kind of disappointing. So if you get the Slimalizer, which is a wonderful item, it beeps whenever there's whenever you're in a slime chunk. And I found 4 chunks in a line that happen to be slime chunks, but they don't actually spawn slimes. This goes all the way down to 1 layer above bedrock, and it never spawned the slime. So I was going to build something in here, it didn't work out. So what I was going to do, at least in just a single chunk, is basically this. So you would have multiple layers going up, probably having iron golems on the sides for the slimes to kind of hop over to, fall, and then once they get down there, then you would have this kind of setup where they just float over here, touch the Nar Slimus, which then eats the slime, turns it into mana. That sends it up here, and then that sends it into here. Very, very simple. I didn't go through the entire thing just because it didn't work, and therefore it wouldn't have made for a very impressive thing, huh? So that's basically it, but at the same time, I wanted to show this little bit at the end here, too. The Mana Splitter is very good, and I think would be amazing for something like this. So if you do decide to go with this, especially if you decide to have multiple TNT duplicators and go with this kind of setup, I really recommend, instead of just doing a single mana pool, to go with a Mana Splitter and multiple mana pools. Even better yet, probably going with one of the upgraded mana pools, or the upgraded mana pool, which is this one. I think this one holds more. It would make sense too, because it is a more expensive item, I think. Right? Shimmer Rock, which requires Bifrost blocks, which requires Alf Glass, and a Rod of the Bifrost. Yeah, it's a lot more expensive, so that I'm pretty sure holds a good bit more. But that's basically it. This is a good way to get yourself started. Now, this one I know isn't the cheapest. I believe it is a Rune of Wrath, isn't it? Yeah, so it's a Rune of Wrath, but you only need the one. So you just get a Rune of Earth and a Rune of Winter. Winter is just some snow, wool, and another Rune of Earth, which I think you make 2 of anyway. Yeah, you make 2 of anyway. It's really not that expensive, actually. I don't know what I was thinking. Yeah, this is pretty early game. It doesn't really require a whole lot. So a few basic runes, you get this, and you're set. You never have to worry about it if you make multiples of these. You're done. Easy game. But yeah, if you want to get started early game, I recommend several of these. But as you can see here, it's been here for an hour. They do decay, so you do have to keep an eye on it every once in a while. Maybe have a bit of a timer or something to let you know that, hey, there's no more, or not even a timer, actually. You can use the mana detector and have it send off a light whenever it's no longer getting mana flowing through it. Yeah, that's basically it. Hope this was helpful. Let me know if you need help with anything else, or if you want me to design something a little bit more in depth. Hope you have a great day.